Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Like always, I never know who's going to walk through my door, but I'm always excited when they do. Today is no different. I'd like to welcome to the Andre The Beast Crayton Show, the one, the only Miss Entertainment herself, Miss Comedian herself, Val Werner. What's going on?
Thanks for having me on, Andre. I really appreciate it.
I could be funny when I want to be.
You were. That was funny, man.
Okay, let's get right down to it. Tell the viewers a little bit about Val Werner.
Well, this is 810 days of my midlife crisis, is what I like to tell people.
810
This
minutes?
is the 810th day. Of my
Wait a
midlife
minute. We got
crisis.
30 minutes. Can we get all this in the 30
No,
minutes?
it's been 810 days since I quit my job and I took up woodworking and I decided to become a stand-up comic.
Really? Where
I
you
know.
from? Where you from? Because you have a beautiful skin tone. You're definitely not USA. You might be USA
Yeah,
now.
I know it. Yeah, when you look at me, you're like, I know you're not white, but you're something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was born in Thailand. My parents met during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And that's how a white guy from Grand Rapids meets an Asian lady. So
Vietnam War. You
Yeah.
I don't get many individuals in that seat talking about experiences in
right?
Vietnam War. What was
No.
it like for you? Military.
Right. My dad was in the Signal Corps, and he was stationed in northeast Thailand. And that's where I was born, was in northeast along the border with Laos. And for him, it was a very safe place to be, let's
Right.
just say it that way. And being on base so far away from the lines, but that kind of support work is really important during the war. My mom was a secretary at the base, and that's how they met. So.
When you say Laos, I know I taught history, so I know about
Yeah.
the Vietnam War and Laos, but to read about it is different than actually there. So you was, did you hear the bombs? Did you hear the confusion, or was Laos so
Well,
far away that?
No,
it
I was
didn't-
just a baby.
Okay.
Really. And I mean, I think the greatest impact, I was in Thailand for several years after I was born, but the greatest impact to the region is all the refugees fleeing, Vietnam, fleeing Laos because of the war conditions. And so we left when I was 3, and we came briefly to the States, and went back to the Philippines. So I was just an Army brat. We just went everywhere, and to Korea and Japan, and didn't come back to the States until I think I was 10 years old. So.
Do your parents share any of those stories about? That's where you was born. Do you have
Sure.
any? Does it even? Do you want to go back?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you go visit?
My mom lives there.
Really? So you do
Yeah.
go back?
My mom has a big farm there, and she's 73 now. She has a 53-year-old boyfriend over
Excuse
there.
me?
Yeah, she's 53. Yeah, my husband's 50, so,
Okay, okay.
I'm glad he's not the same age, but, she loves it there. It's a great country. What I remember the most when I was a kid was, this was before they had flood control. They lived near a river, and so all the houses were built on stilts.
Okay.
And I remember going to my grandmother's house, having to go up the stairs, and there's no running water, there's no electricity. You'd bathe in this a large rain barrel. And that's what life was like for them, because they couldn't build anything that lasted, because it
Right.
would always flood every year. And if you go a decade later to the region, they've built flood control.
Really?
All the houses come off their stilts. Now you can build roads, you can build buildings. It's one of the largest cities in Thailand now,
Really?
Udon Thani. And it's just amazing to me to see that change in my village, to go from dirt roads and everything like that. Even the airport was a dirt airport. I remember
Really?
landing as a teenager. But now it's just this big place. It's beautiful. Tourists are going there now.
What's
And
the culture like there? You're the first individual that I met from that region. I'm
Yeah.
excited now. Like
Thais are known to be very warm and friendly people.
I believe
Like
it.
when you
Yeah.
travel, if you go to Thailand, of course you've got to go to Phuket, which is in the south of Thailand.
Okay.
It's really well known for the islands there, and it's like a paradise there. Just like any big city, though, if you go into Bangkok, if there's anything you want to see, you're going to find it in Bangkok.
Really? So it's the Vegas of.
A little bit, yeah. It's a monarchy. It's run by they have a king, and they recently lost the longest standing monarch in the world was the last king, and his son has inherited the crown. But they're very much, they love the monarchy, and every few years though they have a little bit of turmoil in their government,
Right.
and it's just not as stable as like it is here in the
How
United
how in
States.
touch are you your with your roots, with your heritage there?
That's a interesting question. I think when you're mixed heritage, you always have to, you get pulled in both directions,
Yeah.
right? My mother, even when I was an adult, she came to live with us, and my kids grew up with my mom in the house, and so they always got to see her cooking and her talking to them about her life. She came to the United States in 1978. She didn't speak much English. We went to Wisconsin. It was the worst blizzard in a century, and she'd never seen snow.
Was it 72?
78.
Close.
1978. She
Okay,
packed her bag
yeah.
to go home so many times.
Really?
But just to have her resilience like that, to just say, I'm going to learn the language and I'm going to raise my kids here in the States and I'm going to get a job. And like when my dad divorced my mom, she stood up on her own and came to it. And I think that's a lot of perseverance that a lot of Thai people have as well. Because if you remember, there was this the tsunami that came through.
Yeah.
And to be able to get back on their feet the way they did, I think was a real testament to the Thai spirit. And they helped each other. They really helped. My cousin had a bar down in Phuket that was just completely wiped out. And they told me that, with the neighbors and the government, within a year they were able to get back up and running. So I think that's really the Thai spirit, I would say.
You mentioned your father. What's the spirit like with your father? What do are you close to your father?
Yep, I'm going to see my dad on Monday for Thanksgiving.
Really?
My dad lives in Texas.
So he left Laos and came to the United States too.
He came when we moved from Thailand to the States, and like I said, we went to the Philippines and everything. My dad was a great provider. He was always there, and it just came to a point where they were probably better apart.
You grew apart.
Together.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's one of those couples where you hear they got divorced, and you're like, thank God.
Yeah.
These are the people who shouldn't be together.
Now you have other brothers and sisters, other siblings?
Yep, I'm the middle child.
Where are your brothers and sisters at?
They're here in Indiana. I have an older sister and a younger brother.
So everybody just left.
Well, my dad, he comes to visit us, right? It's all power in numbers, right? He's got to come to here, and we don't go to him.
So you come to the United States. You later get married.
Hmm.
What's that like?
I got
You're the
married.
American dream now.
I got married very young.
I know.
I know. I got married when I was 20, and my husband proposed 2 weeks after we started seeing each other.
How many weeks?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. He'd made this paper ring out of a straw wrapper, and we were at the Waffle House on 56th Street in Georgetown. I remember. And I
Okay.
didn't exactly
Wait a
say
minute.
yes.
At the Waffle House? What
Right.
did you order?
You laugh, but I have the ticket. They used to give you those big red tickets. I have that from that day.
Really?
I just kept it, and I still have it all these years later. I had coffee. It was 80 cents.
Wow.
That's exactly, I know what I had. We only had coffee. We were broke back then,
When you say
So-
broke, what is broke?
When we got married, this is, I think I told you I was in the circus. So after the circus, we came back, and we just worked hourly jobs,
Whoa. Hold the thought for a minute. We'll be back after
I know,
this commercial
you can't throw
break.
the word circus out there. I try to casually throw circus out there, but you just
What did you
can't.
do in the circus? Ringling Brothers
Okay.
and Barnum and Bailey, or was
Right.
it somebody else?
Okay, I want to tell you first what my husband did. This is way more impressive than what I did, okay?
Okay.
My husband was a high diver, which is you climb this very skinny ladder, and you go up like 80 feet in the air.
Uh-huh.
The ladder is so unstable that it sways back and forth, and you climb it, okay? Because it's held together by these wires. And then you get up there, and you stand on a platform that barely holds both your feet. And then below you is a 10-foot wide, 10-foot deep circular pool. And you got to jump into it. And you got to do that 3 times a day. That's what my husband did.
Whoa.
He did it at 3 different places. And
How deep is the water?
10 feet deep.
And how high are you in the air?
80 feet deep. It's not a good idea. Don't do it on your own. But you go in feet first
Yeah.
so you don't
Okay.
hurt yourself.
Okay.
And the first day we were in Austria. We went to Vienna, this circus in Vienna. And the first day we get there, all the other divers are standing around the edge of the pool. And I jokingly said, well, aren't you guys going to get wet or something? Because it's stupid, they're swimmers, right? They go, no, we stand here just in case if he's not on center, we'll push him in. And they weren't joking.
What does that mean?
If he's too close to the edge, that's why they're standing there. So they can nudge him into the water so he doesn't hit the side of the pool because it's so small. And so it blew my mind.
Does he have insurance?
No, no insurance. But so then I go there because I'm his girlfriend, right? And they're like, well, this is not a free ride. You're going to have to do some work. So I got to wear, those mascot things with the big head and the body, and it always stinks like ass and axe body spray. That's what it smells like in there. Yeah. So you had to wear that all day long, or I got to paint kids' faces.
What animal were you that you had to be in there?
I was this knockoff Barney, the purple dinosaur.
That
was terrible. I was a tiger one day. It's just you go in, you show up, they give you an animal to wear. The worst thing was my German wasn't very good, and we're in Austria.
Right.
So I only had a few things I could say, like "Ich bin Dinosaur," just something dumb, and yeah.
So your husband was it? How did he become? Did he train to do this?
He was a diver in college, and they would recruit from college, and I would say that was like we were there for 6 months. And you're with young people, they're all athletes. There's some mornings where they just look at each other and say, which one of you is sober enough to make the high dive this
sober.
morning? Yeah.
After a couple of drinks.
just gotten in at 4 a.m. or something crazy, And so it was a really carefree time. We had way too much fun. And then when we came back from there, I was pregnant.
Oh. Real life sets in now.
Oh yeah, and I was like, we were gonna get married anyways. We almost got married in Prague, and we were just like, all right, let's begin. Okay. Let's begin. And we got married, and we just started working jobs. We had hourly jobs. He would work nights, I'd work days, and I think I told you one year we made $16,000.
What was the toughest moment of that journey being married? You're no longer drinking and jumping off the high dives into. I give your husband a lot of credit because I'm not doing that. Jumping into 10 feet of water, you get pregnant, life begins. Mm-hmm. What are some of the struggles now? Now real life is setting in for you.
Oh yeah, you remember before the internet, if you want to know your bank balance, you had to call the bank. Mm-hmm. I remember being at the gas station and I wanted to fill up a tank of gas, and I had no idea if I had enough money to do that, and I had the kids in the back seat, and I knew I had to go to the grocery store still, and I just remember standing there thinking, I've got to do something different. And what I had heard for a while was, you guys have to make the best of what you've got. Yeah. And I thought, that's not good enough for me, because what I've got's not good enough, and so I need to do something. And so my husband and I decided we were both going to go back to school. And I think that's the lowest point. The hardest part of our marriage was to say to each other, it's not us, but our situation isn't working, and we need to change the situation.
What was school going to make different? Because you still got kids. You got to pay for the school. You got to pay for room and board. You got to buy Pampers. You got to buy milk. They growing up. I mean, so that's a big commitment. All of a sudden, instead of saying, well, let's search the job market, you guys said, well, let's go back to school. Yeah. What was the reasoning for that, so the viewers can understand that? Because from a viewer standpoint, they probably was like, why didn't you just go to work?
We did. I had a decent job. I was working at the mall. I was like a store manager. And that's what my mom said. She's like, why do you want to go back to school? You could just stay on this path and whatever. And I thought, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing.
Say that again, because a lot of people don't hear that.
Yeah, I don't enjoy what I'm doing. Yeah. And I thought, I'm young enough to get through the tough times if I want to work hard and things like that. And I thought, we can do this. And we both went back to school to get better jobs, to get careers. And that's what we wanted out of life. And I don't know, I think that was the biggest driver. Was at the time, that's kind of the message, was you got to go to school and you got to get a job or whatever. And luckily it worked for us,
What did you your husband wind up doing with your careers? What careers did you guys
My husband, he got a PhD in biology. Oh. And he's in the biotechnology sector now, so.
Oh, he's doing well.
He's doing well. He was fortunate to be president of a company for a while, and that company sold, so he's done well. Then I went to school. I have a physics degree, and I went to work at an engine company, and I did that for 15 years. I worked all kinds of jobs there, but I ended up being in a leadership position, And that was really exciting for me to help mold and develop young engineers and things like that. So
Give me an example of molding young engineers. You got your degree.
yeah.
You're on the road to to prosperous individuals, but you share something that's really crucial that you don't hear from a lot of people. You enjoy and you bought the ideal of remolding young engineers, individuals. Give me an example of some of that.
Well, if you're in a room of engineers, there's always going to be that old engineer who wants to share something with you. And I tell you, when I first met my old engineer, I thought I want to be that guy that doesn't discourage people when they try and talk, helps them explain what they're trying to explain, because you're just young and you don't know how to talk, right? How to talk to adults. And so I wanted to be that person, especially for female engineers, because that's a tough field to be in sometimes. I could go days without seeing another
What kind of
female
engineer were you?
Mechanical engineer.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
So that's what I'm saying is like helping young female engineers, especially, helping represent their voice, and when they speak, to be the one that says, let me hear some more about that, or this was a great idea, and just being the voice for them. But also being willing to take them aside and be like, this was great, but these are the things you need to work on. Because you can't just blow smoke all the time. You've got to give them the real talk. Now, sometimes I can be too real with young engineers.
What's too real for you?
They gave me this group of female engineers one summer to mentor. We went to lunch, right? This is the first day. They all go around telling me, just like we're doing now, right? Like, what do you want to do with your life? Whatever.
Right.
This one young lady, she goes, when I'm 28, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have 2 kids, and I'm going to be at this job, and then I'm going to be a director by the time I'm 30, and then when I'm 32, blah, blah, blah. She had everything planned to this exact date. And I'm a terrible person, let's just say. I started laughing at her.
Oh, that
No,
kind of.
don't do that. It's not nice, right?
Yeah.
I'm usually a nice person. And she goes, what? I said, I want all those things for you. I absolutely do. But though you cannot plan your life to the detail. You're going to miss so many things along the way.
Right.
You're going to be so
Tunnel journey.
You're never
Yeah.
going to know what is the new thing that's going to come
And what
along.
obstacles? Yeah.
Right.
Obstacles.
And she cried. She cried.
Really?
She said, why are you making fun of my dream? And I said, it's not. And I did it badly, obviously. It was me. But I was just trying to be real with her. And I was like, you can't, you're going to miss so much life if you're planning like it's a paper or something for homework.
What would you have done different?
I wish I had talked to her after by herself. Because calling somebody out in front of other people, that's one of the things I've always learned. Don't do that. It's take them aside and have that chat. I wish I had done that with her and been like the same message. I want all those things for you and more. But I want you to open your eyes and look around and always be willing to learn, always willing to take something new on, not only the thing you planned.
We talk about that now with providing constructive messages to individuals, and clear today that needs to be amplified a lot.
Yeah.
Looking at your life, what messages have impacted you, and which messages from your family do you wish they had told you now?
They wish they had told me now? Oh, that's an excellent question. This is probably why you're so good at podcasts, right?
I don't know if I'm good, but thanks.
You get a lot of messages when you're growing up, and I'm sure, and I know men do too, on masculinity and how to be a man and things like that. When I was a teenager, I had so many people telling me, "Why worry about going to school? You're a pretty girl. You can just marry well and be done with it." Right? And I think when I would challenge that in my mind, I wouldn't challenge it with my voice. You know what I'm saying? I was just silent, and I just accepted it. And I think that's something that my dad really taught me is to try and speak up more and speak up for myself. But I had to learn how to do it. I didn't have to just him telling me to do it wasn't going to make me do it, right? And same thing with my mom. Her message was always just put your head down and work hard. And I did that, but I think in part, I wish I had put my head up more and seen what life was about, and maybe I'd made better decisions. I didn't go back to school till I was 28. I was like the world's oldest intern when I went to work. So I think those are the things that I've learned the most, because when I decided to make a big decision, like going back to school or like becoming a comedian, I just had to educate myself and put my head down and learn first before I do those things.
Being a lady of color, and I just mean color, universal color. What have you noticed in this world that we live in today?
Well, when we first came to the States, I'd kind of been sheltered. I'd lived on base or been surrounded by the same kind of kids. And when we first moved to Texas, we were one of the few probably the only Asian family in town, of a very small town in Texas. And I remember the first few weeks there being called slurs, and I had no clue that they were talking about me. I was like the classic, who are you talking about? Like looking behind me, right? And you're like, oh, that's words for me? I didn't know that. And there was a kind little girl in my class, and she was saying, don't listen to them. And I that's when I realized, like, oh my God, they mean that in a not nice way.
Right.
And I had no clue. I was absolutely clueless. And I think for me, I didn't like the attention. I just wanted to blend in. I really wish I was invisible.
Really?
Like Wonder Woman. It just made you want to be invisible when you have attention for what you think is the wrong reason. And I think as you get older, you have to start to laugh at it a little bit. Like I'd meet people for the first time after they'd talk to me on the phone.
Right.
And they would say, I thought you'd be blonde.
Really?
Because they'd hear my voice, and they're like, I thought you'd be an American. I used to have long black hair,
Right.
I looked Asian, like super Asian. I'm starting to look like a white lady now, but I looked super Asian. People would be like, I thought you'd be an American. I'm like, I am an American. I was born an American,
What does that tell you about people in general?
I think
do we need to educate? Like, when people say that, like, what goes through your mind?
I really think it's a place of, it's just education. It's just learning what your words sound like before it comes out of your mouth.
Right.
I knew what they meant.
Right.
Right? Like, I thought you'd be taller.
Right.
That's not necessarily a knock against the person who's shorter, right? But it's something that, it's just thinking about the way you say things and what you actually mean. And I put my foot in my mouth so many times, right? I've done it too. But I think that's where, when it crosses the line to they're clearly meaning something bad,
Right.
then that's what. But when somebody just says things like that, like I thought you'd be an American, I'm able to joke back with them and say I am an American, and then they laugh. They go, oh well, you know what I meant, and I'm like, yeah, I did know what you mean, but I think COVID was the roughest time to be an Asian. I would say it was very. I had a friend who
Right.
was chased in the parking lot.
Really?
People shouting at her about getting out of the country and take COVID with you and things like that. And the day after Trump was elected, I was told to go back to my country. And I
Were these people that you knew, or you was just out?
Just strangers.
Really?
Just strangers. And I think that was hard for me because my dad was in the military, my grandfather was in the military, World War II.
They fought for this country.
And they fought for this country. And my mother's a great example of the American dream, and I'm American. I'm so freaking American, right? So it hurt. It really, it hurts your feelings when somebody says that. Beyond that, but all of us, I was in a gas station when it happened. All of us just stood there stunned, and luckily everybody in the crowd was like, get the heck out of here, man. You're out of your mind. But I think that was rough, and I don't think I've never ever had such a rough time before. But then as my hair's pretty white, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've just started to blend in again. Like I'm almost like losing my Asian identity as I get older. So
you said you're blending in. Did you feel you had to blend in to decompress the outrage or the misunderstanding that people were feeling with COVID? Changed a lot of people. Some for the good, some for the bad. But I think throughout that whole entire process, what we didn't do was learn how to come together as human beings and stuff. So when you said that your hair was black and all of a sudden was the assimilation to ease the burden of the people's inability to educate themselves?
I think when you try, and it's not necessarily like code switching, but you do try to be, sometimes you're less Asian. I would say I did that when I was younger. Maybe not when I was in my 30s, but definitely when I was in my 20s. I just tried to blend in, and it's just easier. You know, it may not be the right thing, but it was just easier to exist. And I would go especially when I was a teenager. It was like two lives. You just go to high school and you be as white as you can be, and you come home and your mom's cooking something and it smells, you know, just like a Thai restaurant in my house, right? You know, so you just have these two lives that you live, and when you carry that as an adult, you think, I really want to be who I am, but I really don't want to cause anybody to
How
have all
hard
these.
is it to be who you are?
For me,
Yeah.
I think I have a very easy, happy life. You know, I think that I'm giving you examples that have been difficult, but in a general sense, to me, whatever career I have or whatever I'm doing, it's important to find happiness, because if you're waiting for something specific to happen to you for you to be happy, that thing can always go away. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you say, well, I'll be happier when I own a house. Well, what happens when you don't own a house?
Yeah.
Are you going to say you can't be happy without those things? And so I mentioned things that are difficult, but in general, I have a happy, wonderful life. I don't know how else to say it, but
Now,
it's a mindset.
You are one of the top comedians locally here in Indianapolis. And Indianapolis seems to be that melting pot of great comedians now coming out. How much of your life is in your work?
Well, first you have to tell me who told you that, so I can make sure I pay them money. $100, right? That's what I promised that guy who told you that. I do talk about my life in my comedy a lot. I talk about being Asian. I talk about having a crazy Asian mother. She's nuts. I could talk to her and just with my notebook and write some of the stuff she says.
Give me an example
every time.
of she's nuts.
Okay. My mom, she has a farm, right? And they legalized marijuana. And so I kind of jokingly said to her, I was like, are you going to start growing marijuana? And she goes, start?
I've been doing it.
She walks off camera, because we're on like an iPad, right? She walks off camera. She comes back with a potted plant, a marijuana plant, and she's hugging it. She goes, this is my favorite one.
Wow.
And I blew my mind, totally blew my mind. And I'm like, I'm putting that in my set right there. She says some hilarious stuff. She talks about her boyfriend a lot. And she says when she comes to the States for the holidays, the women will go towards him. And they're like trying to get him away from her.
How does that make you feel that your mom is like that?
She's my mom's amazing. I would say I do joke a lot about her. She's an older woman. She's set in her ways, and so it can be funny, but it's from a loving place, right? But no, she's happy. You know, he's a nice guy. He's great.
What made you get into comedy? You
I've
have
always
an engineer background. There can't be anything funny about dealing with wheels, circles, boxes, and so forth, and mechanical movement.
You know, I remember as a kid, the first comedian I saw was Eddie Murphy Raw, and I was a kid. My dad had rented it, and he had no freaking clue.
Wait a minute, how old were you? Don't do that, because child services might be watching.
I think I was 13 years old.
Okay.
And you've seen Raw, right?
I've seen it, yeah.
That's not something your 13-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
We were having a slumber party with two other girls. He was so busy, he just put it in and he walked away and went into his office. And I remember the first 5 minutes, the three of us going, we shouldn't be watching this.
But you kept watching.
and my friend Jody, she's like, we should stop it. And the two of us was like, no, we're not stopping it. And we watched the whole thing, and I thought, man, what a job. You know, what a job. And I'd always loved comedy. I'd been a performer all through high school and, you know, on stage and in music. And I think it's one of those things where you start to live the life you're expected to instead of life that you want. And that was fine. I've had a great life. There's no part of my life I would undo. I had somebody ask me if you could have done comedy when you were younger. I was like, no, there's no way I could have.
Right.
Because when I step on that stage, I know who I am. I'm not growing. I'm already a fully formed human, right? And because of my job, I'd gotten used to public speaking. I used to train people or talk to a whole plant full of people. And not having to get over stage fright and not having to learn, that really helped me.
Your life
Right.
experiences laid the groundwork
Yeah, there's no way.
to where you're at now.
What would I have talked about?
Yeah, yeah.
What would I even talk about now? You know, my old job is able to travel the world. You know, I'd go to China, India, Brazil, all kinds of places. There's so many stories to tell. So one time where I bought nunchucks when I went to China and knocked myself out in the hotel room. You know, that's a hilarious story. And I try to come back in the country with these nunchucks. They're illegal in 17 states. Did you know
I
that?
had no idea, and I used to
Yeah.
make nunchucks.
They took my nunchucks away. Yeah, they did. It was just, but you're saying though, I would never have any of these funny stories to tell if I hadn't lived the life I'd lived.
How can the viewers reach out to you? Before we even do that part, what are some of the things you're doing now with your career? Like, you know, what's going on with you now?
Yeah. Well,
You got a lot of new
yeah.
projects going on.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we have a great comedy community here. So there's lots of shows that we have. I've got a show December 2nd at Fountain Square, and then I'm just around the Midwest. I took a comedy job, as weird as that sounds, next year with the World Series of Comedy, which is a festival that goes from February to September.
Wow.
And very lucky to be able to host all of those shows that they do. There'll be 11 shows throughout the country. Clubs I never would have been able to go to on my own. I'm going to be able to go host and get some time on those stages and really help grow this festival that in the end it culminates in Las Vegas, where they hold like professional development seminars for comedians, and they hold this contest for all the comedians that have performed throughout the year. And so that's what the big thing I've gotten going. I do have some shows booked now, but as we're ramping up towards February,
Right.
I've really been focusing on World Series of Comedy.
It sounds like a winner. How can the viewers reach you?
On all the social media platforms, you can find me at val.werner, WERNER, .comedy.
You know what? This is a great episode. So, you had an extraordinary life, and the life is still going ahead. My hat is off to your family for doing the transition here. My hat's off to you for, you know, keeping that beast mindset and keep going and taking everything that you've learned to elevate onto the comedy platform and to bring laughter and enjoyment to us from not only your side, but looking into other people. Leave the viewers with something positive before we wrap up.
Something that I always told my children, and as now they're adults, is if you be a good human, to me that's that idea of karma, right? You're putting out there what you want to be treated like, and people will treat you like that. There's nothing I've ever achieved or felt fortunate or lucky that I didn't attribute to that concept, is being a good human, you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Val Werner, one of the best entertainers, not comedians, one of the best entertainers in the field.
I'm gonna get my wallet out.
This has been another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.